Ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha. I found myself this evening in a mood to sermonize on some form of topic, but I was unsure as to what. I've covered so many topics already in countless other discussions of varying logic and levels of emotional exhibition that I actually ran into a bit of a creative wall. I had no idea what I wanted to talk about, only that I felt that I had to discuss something. Perhaps it is because I've covered so much on my channel in such a short span of time that I'm simply used to being constantly working, and to be honest, that is something that needs to happen. Now, I had stated previously that this is very much the make or break time for my channel. With recent events, my YouTube channel has experienced an explosion of growth, the likes of which I never believed possible. Even after the furor has died down, the sustained growth on my channel has far exceeded even my wildest dreams, and if it keeps up, there stands every potential that those stars of being a full-time YouTuber that I keep reaching for might very well be just within my grasp. But I have said all this before, and there's nothing really new for me to add there. And I can't really talk about the Dentola Studios DMCA issue because there's nothing new there. All's been silent and will likely remain so until the DMCA attack expires. I admit I racked my brain for quite some time and decided to pick up another game and give it a look. What I found was the game that you are seeing on your screen now. It is a simple game. It's purely text, and the vast majority of the game is build-up and character development for an emotional impact toward the end. There is no sound in the entire game, except for one moment where the sound of a computer being powered on is being played to signify your character, an intelligent firewall program, being brought online. It is about as minimalistic as you can possibly get, and yet I have to admit that it was an immensely satisfying experience and one that I feel was well worth the $4 spent on it, in spite of it being an approximately an hour-long game. It was this brief, extremely minimal and yet thoroughly entertaining experience, coupled with some YouTube comments, that spurred me towards finally having a topic to discuss, and that is the importance of subjective experience within video games in general and what that means to objective standards and the veracity of games reviews. As many of you may be aware, any form of interactive medium is going to be highly subjective on how it is perceived by the individual. More so than most other forms of entertainment, video games are subjected to this unique phenomenon. It is that interactivity itself, that player agency, that ability to choose, that makes games, no matter the type, unique each time they are played. To contribute to their uniqueness even further, there is a personal preference on top of it. Now, this is relevant for really all forms of entertainment, as personal preference is key and will more often than not differ to varying degrees between individuals. One person may love the Mass Effect series because of its characters and branching story arcs, in spite of the horrendous ending that I still haven't completely forgiven BioWare for, while someone else might hate the fact that they're forced to grind through so much story and wish to just get to the combat, while yet another person may prefer visual novels, or 4X games, or fighting games. The list could go on for days on end. The point is, games are by far and away the most subjectively received form of entertainment that is currently known. Some may argue that, well, movies or music preferences are highly subjective as well and should not be discounted, and they would be correct, except for the fact that there is no interactivity when you watch a movie. There's no changing the words in the chorus of a song while you listen to it be performed. The same cannot be said of most games. In games, you can choose whether to go left or right, whether to duck or run, whether to choose that renegade option or paragon option, and it is that interactive nature that crafts a purely unique experience for the individual that sets games apart from other forms of entertainment and what makes them, in my mind, to be subjectively better. You see what I did there? Subtle? So, how can one look on games in an objective sense when they are such a wholly subjective medium? And I'm sure we've all heard the term, this game is objectively better than that one, or these games are objectively better when played with a keyboard and mouse, while these others are objectively better with a controller or joystick. But what does that even mean? I've played some games that were objectively better with a keyboard and mouse that I actually felt more comfortable using a controller with. So how can it be objectively superior if I'm better able to effectively play the game using the control medium that has been deemed not the objectively best method? That is because it is still something that relies on user interface and therefore player agency. So then the only real way to deem objective terms would be to remove the aspects of subjective preference from the conversation. That leaves us with mere operations, such as on a PC with a 60 Hz monitor, a game running at 60 Hz, or what is most commonly and incorrectly referred to as frames per second, will experience less tearing and will create a smoother viewing experience, which is indeed objectively better than a game running at 30 frames per second on a 60 Hz display. The 30 frames per second will create more tearing and will be visibly more jerky than the 60 FPS game. The stability is also something that is wholly objective. Does it run or not? Does it crash or not? Glitches, pop-in, or any other bugs are all objective scenarios. That is a function of the game or lack of function. Aside from that, there's very little that's not based upon a subjective experience. So, taking that into account, how can one trust a games reviewer like myself? If these experiences are so highly subjective, what makes one trust a games critic? Well, even the answer to that question is subject to personal standards. Some do so because of a critic's personality, or their apparent wisdom or experience, or their analytical nature, or sometimes humor. Indeed, sometimes even for sex appeal. A good deal of the time, the answer is actually much more simple. It's usually a matter of sheer statistics. It is where the games critic seems to give positive scores to games you like, and negative scores to games you don't. But you also have to remember that no two people's standards and opinions ever match up. Not entirely, at least. That is why I've always said not to trust just my viewpoint on a game. Watch at least one other review of a game. There may be mechanics that I didn't cover. There may be a glaring omission that someone else nailed in their review. Conversely, the opposite could also be true. Take this game on the screen, for example. For what it is attempting to do, I would rate this game exceptionally high. So many people are amazed by the fact that they can be swayed to emotional extremes by mere words on a computer screen, but I still don't understand why that is even a surprise. Books can have an astounding impact on a person. Indeed, that player agency within the game itself makes it more impactful because once a person begins making decisions, they become more invested in what it is they're playing. Yes, you can get drawn into a good book, but it is nothing compared to an experience that a video game is capable of delivering. Now, I love this game, short as it is, but you may not. And that is sometimes a thing that people tend to forget, myself included, that my preferences may not always be your preferences. Now, that doesn't make the decision to like or dislike a game wrong, merely different. Because to label a game good or bad is at the very core of that a subjective experience. But where am I going with all of this? What is the point? Well, the point, I think, is this. And this is something that has always been at the core of my ideals. Take only what you need or want from my videos and just discard the rest. All of it is nothing more than personal opinion. Now, I share that opinion with you on most games, not to judge, but to help inform. Just remember that if I have a negative experience with a game, it doesn't mean that you won't have the same experience. And this also holds true the opposite. So I think if I were to keep going on this particular topic, then I would be merely going in circles at this point. And if any of you are wondering, the game that I'm showcasing here as an example is a fantastic, albeit brief game named Open Sorcery. And it is available on Steam now for $4. And I have to say, even at only 1 hour, it was the best $4 I've spent all week. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. And I also hope you enjoyed my meandering rambling as well. If you did, don't forget to hit those like and share buttons. And if you're new to the channel, then let me be the first to apologize that you stumbled onto my channel and this was the first video you watched. Please do go check out one of my reviews. I'm sure they will be far more entertaining. And if you liked what you see, then please do hit that subscribe button. It helps more than you might think. And also, if you decided to become a proud financial supporter of my channel, feel free to go throw $1 at my Patreon. The link will be in the description down below. Now, thanks for watching this amazingly self-indulgent video, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I am SidAlpha, and I will see you next time.